Dale, this moment has to be one of the most important moments of the Battle of Gettysburg, maybe even of the whole Civil War, when Lee comes to that crest of the hill and suddenly realizes he's got the whole Federal Army in front of him.
Yeah, that was probably a real shock for him to get to the top of that ridge and look out over the town and see the retreating Federal forces consolidating up on Cemetery Hill, because he thought he was going to have an easy fight here, but all of a sudden now he's faced with the entire Federal Army. Very interesting moment in the Battle of Gettysburg.
Now, the building that became Lee's headquarters was owned by Thaddeus Stevens, and the widow Mary Thompson was living there at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg. Do you think Lee and his staff picked that as the headquarters building, not just because it was close to the battle line, but because it was also a stone building? It would be a little bit safer from exploding artillery shells in the neighborhood.
That's an interesting idea. I doubt whether they really thought about it as protection against artillery. I think that the office there, or the room there where Lee had his office, was gave him a quiet place to contemplate and interview people and talk to people privately. The idea that it was protection against artillery was probably true, but I don't think it was probably their first criteria for choosing the house, because of course his real headquarters was across the street in the orchard, where they had all their tents set up and horses and orderlies and so on and so forth. But the house did provide him with an amount of privacy and security that was probably important. It's interesting. It's a great little museum, and you know, if anybody comes to Gettysburg, I would definitely say to come and take a look at it.
You could imagine what it would be like to have all of these tents in the apple orchard for all of Lee's staff. You know, the real headquarters are a lot of people, not just the people that would be in Widow Thompson's house, but they'd be in tents throughout the apple orchard, carrying out all the functions of staff. Just look at all of the orders that have to be transmitted throughout the Army, and there'd be maybe up to 1,000 horses in the immediate vicinity. Speaking of horses, I noticed on Traveler, Lee's horse, that there are no breast straps or there's no breastplate. Yet on all the other horses there is, the breastplate and the breast straps. Why is there none on Traveler?
Well, that's very observant of you. All the photographs that we have of Traveler and Lee show that his tack on his horse was very simple, and so consequently that's why I did it. I've never seen anything to indicate anything otherwise. Lee prided himself in his simplicity and not the trappings of the high office that he held. But evidently he was comfortable enough with that horse and the way that he rode it that he felt he didn't need it. But that basically comes from contemporary photographs of Lee and Traveler.
Well, this painting, Lee, is like the beginning of the Battle of Gettysburg, and there's the rest of the story. What is it?
This picture represents the opposite of what the General Lee picture represents, which is the beginning of the Battle of Gettysburg. This is the end. This comes from an account by General Imboden, and it talks about meeting Lee at his headquarters at 1 o'clock in the morning Lee rides into his headquarters totally alone, totally by himself, and represents the finality of the Battle of Gettysburg and the disaster that's fallen to the Confederate forces. And you can see that he's very rejected here. This is General Imboden and his aide. So it's a very poignant picture.
You know, in the evening hours of the 3rd of July, 1863, there's a time when Robert E. Lee is not accounted for. He might have gone into the woods and had his Garden of Gethsemane and, prayed. And maybe that's the real reason why it took so long for him to get back to his headquarters in General Imboden.
That's definitely a possibility. He didn't get back until very late, and there's some indication that there was no accounts for his time at that time. So I don't know for sure, but it's definitely a possibility. It was a very, very emotional moment.
Well, Dale, where can people go if they want to find out more about your art?
Well, it's very easy. GALLON.com. GALLON.com. That'll get you there. You see everything we've done.
So, Gallon.com. Okay, Gallon.com. That's terrific. And we hope to see a lot more of you, Dale.